What's up, guys? Welcome back to Principles of Performance. Last week we touched on health and the principles that underpin health, specifically homeostasis and metabolism. And as I said last week, a lot of the time when I get people reaching out to me to ask me questions, a lot of those questions are, hey, how do I lose a bit of body fat? And hey, how do I run a little faster or feel a little fitter or get a little stronger? One of the things that we're going to touch on the whiteboard is the way that health interplays with performance and body composition. We're still going to touch on health and the importance of that, but what I want to specifically touch on today is the way that your health directly affects your ability to both perform and the way that your body will shape or morph or change itself based on the things that you're doing. We call this adaptability. So let's jump onto the whiteboard and have a bit of a talk about this adaptability. Welcome back to the whiteboard. Hopefully we've got some audio upgrades this week. I'm trying a couple of new things, so bear with me while I figure out the kinks with that. But let's just jump straight in. So often in the health and fitness industry, body image is used to market and sell people into specific programs. And that's predicated on the fact that most people eat with their eyes. So we all have self-esteem issues and we all wish we looked like somebody else. I can think of many people that I know or that I follow that I haven't not once been envious of maybe the way that they look or the way that they perform. And that's a natural reaction based on the way that we just navigate our subjective experience. But what I've found for myself and for a lot of the athletes and non-athletes that I work with is shifting our state from a subjective to a more objective approach helps us stay on the path with a little bit more consistency because we become process orientated rather than outcome orientated. And I'm hoping to give you a little bit of insight into that process as we dive further into this series on health, performance, and body composition. As I said in the intro and in last week's video, many people come to me asking me for a body composition goal or a performance goal, but rarely do they come and ask me for a health goal. And as a health and fitness professional, it's often overlooked, not just by many of the clients that come asking for my opinion and expertise, but also by many of my peers in the industry. It's often an overlooked element to the problem when we're looking for the solution to health and fitness is that it could be a health problem before it's a fitness or a body composition problem. Now, I've labeled these 1, 2, and 3, but I would invite you to weigh in with your opinion. Is this a chicken and egg problem? Does somebody have a specific body composition based on the adaptations they've made and therefore they have a certain health output or measurable state? Or do they have a certain measurable health state and that affects their performance and their body composition? Often I like to try to categorize it as the latter, just so that I can say, hey, if we dial in on this thing based on the principles we spoke about last week, which were the underpinning principles of metabolism and homeostasis. So homeostasis, our current state of adaptation, which is the snapshot of your health right now, and metabolism, which is the rate of efficiency at which you adapt. If we take a look at that right now and we iron out any creases here, it will help catapult you through your performance and your body composition goals, rather than if we started with, say, like an 8 or 12 week strength program and we were chasing body composition goals, but then your health just wasn't up to task in handling the volume or the intensity, and then you have some health problems along the way, which may impair your ability to train and therefore impair your ability to achieve that outcome, which was a body composition goal. So this is the way that I like to attack it. There's no right or wrong answers, as long as you're making sure you're ticking all the boxes along the way and we're not leaving any stones unturned when it comes to health. I talked about last week how we can make any element of your metabolism objective by measuring it. And I had some people message me and say, hey, how do I measure, say, my endocrine system, which is your hormones, or how do I measure my digestive system? We can do things like stool samples or even just blood tests where we test the readiness or the availability of specific hormones. So at any point in those 11 systems in your body that make up your organism, we can take a snapshot in time and compare it to normative data that says, look, you're within a certain bandwidth or within a certain category that makes you either a low or high risk, or which makes you a specifically healthy population. So we can use data and science to help us direct the direction that you need to go, rather than just guessing and prescribing performance or body composition related goals before we know where to start. Which is why I like to start with health. And the reason I like to start with health is because it is an objective state that your physiology is in when you walk in the door to start working with me. I need to know where you're at. And you're either going to be in one of two categories. And it doesn't make you bad and it doesn't make you good. It just means that you're either ready to go, so you're functional in terms of health, or you're not functional in terms of health. And I quantify that by asking you, are you in pain? When you walk in the door, do you have a sore knee or a sore hip? When someone comes to see me from a clinical perspective, oftentimes it's because they're in pain or because they're not able to utilize the function of their body as optimally as they'd like. And so I ask, are you in pain? If you're in pain, then that's a signal, then that's a sign from your body, from your metabolism and your homeostasis to say, this current point in time, something's not working very well and something needs to change. It doesn't necessarily make you a good or a bad person. It doesn't make you a good or a bad athlete. There's plenty of science to suggest that pain is an indicator or a predictive indicator for an injury. But you haven't necessarily been injured as you walk in the door. It's just a signal that something needs to change. And I can help you find that based on whether or not I find a mechanical or a medical reason for you to potentially be in pain. Here's a quick snapshot of what that looks like. I have a battery of tests, assessments, and screens that help me navigate somebody's symptoms, and then I can put them into a category of either potentially medical, and if they're a potential medical pain, I'm going to refer them to a specialist such as a physiotherapist or an osteopath or even a physician, because I'm not qualified to deal with that. Or if they've got potentially a mechanical pain based on some assessments and some range of motions that might be missing, I'm going to get my hands on that person and see if I can make some small changes. And when I do make those changes, I want to go back and see if I've changed your symptoms. If I have, I've proven that you may have a mechanical problem rather than a medical problem, and we may be clear to proceed, but let's proceed with caution just to make sure that we haven't left anything on the table. And that's the importance here, the objective state of your physiology. I want to be objective with it. I know that you're in pain, but that just tells me that you're subjectively experiencing an output. I need to know why, and by doing, my assessments and my screens, I'm looking for things that might not be working very well, so I can optimize the things that are working well when we move into our performance-related work, which is going to optimize your ability to get your body composition-related goals. Now, we're looking at the state of health. Now, this state, as I've written here, is quite fluid. By fluid, I mean that it's like trying to pick water up. It's always changing. This change, this fluidity, is called adaptability. And adaptability is just a system or process, the way that system or process is efficiently navigated throughout A to B. So we're always changing. Our health is always changing. It's always fluctuating. And we just want to be able to dial in not only on the objective elements, but on the subjective as well. When you ask someone how they're doing, particularly in Australia, they won't tell you how they are, they'll just tell you how they're not. Yeah, I'm not bad. We don't want to be, I'm not bad. What we want to be is, I'm feeling good today, and I think I'm feeling good because I got some sleep, I ate plenty of good food yesterday, I drank all my water, and I did a bit of stretching. So these are elements where we're objectively able to measure these, but they're going to have a subjective influence on how you feel. And if you're just saying, I feel good, but you don't know why, that might affect your ability to perform and therefore impair your ability to achieve a body composition goal further on down the track. So the state that you're in, which is homeostasis, is highly fluid. It's highly adaptable. And as a coach or a clinician, my job is to help nudge that fluid state positively. We want to be constantly nudging it positively. If we can, then we're going to get performance-related outcomes, which are going to be positive. So over here, performance is just a measurable behavior or set of behaviors. And I've written here, sitting, walking/running, picking up or moving an object. Let's look at the first one, sitting. All I'm doing in a sit is I'm squatting down. That's just a behavior. So I'm going to sit down. There are mechanisms that are at play here where my hips, my knees, and my ankles have to work together to keep my center of balance over my feet as I sit myself down. With walking, we have a set of behaviors. One leg goes forward while the other leg goes backwards, and I've got one arm and the other arm moving in opposite directions to keep my momentum in a straight, narrow line. And then when we make that happen a little faster, we label that set of behaviors running. So we're just defining behaviors, and we're able to measure those And as we measure them, they become a performance output, a behavioral output. And the last one, picking up or moving an object. Again, we can measure that. We can measure how much that load weighed, or we can base it upon any available ranges of motion you have or missing. And then the last one here, body composition. Again, this is the most popular one people come to ask me about, and I run them through this entire system so they get a feel for just how much is going on within the body and the path of least resistance, which is to start with health. So body composition, most people say, oh, it's just how much fat I have and how much lean tissue I have. They're not wrong, but let's expand that definition a little bit more so that we can get on the same basis whether we're health professionals or fitness professionals. Body composition, the ratio of fat tissue and lean muscle tissue in response to a signal to change or adapt to a behavior or set of behaviors. So now we're moving back through what we've just talked about. So yes, it is the ratio of fat tissue to lean muscle tissue, but there's a reason we have that ratio, and it's because we are responding to a signal. That signal is something needs to change. We respond to the signal to change or adaptability, to a behavior or set of behaviors, a performance output, and then based on those set of behaviors that we adapt to, we have a natural body composition that comes with that. Here's an example. Many people see a strength athlete, a powerlifter or a strongman or a power athlete like an Olympic weightlifter. They have a certain body composition. Some of the best in the world, say for example strongman, are very tall, very broad, and they carry a lot of fat tissue because they need to weigh a lot more in order to leverage their body against external loads. So they look a certain way. But then we look at endurance athletes who are quite lean. And they're lean simply because the body has adapted to a set of behaviors, which is running or swimming or jumping on a bike. They're lean because the body has adapted to the fact that it doesn't need that extra weight, that extra mass to leverage against external load. Gravity is the external load, and the body has adapted to gravity over a certain amount of time, and gravity never changes. So we have a specific adaptation or a change to that signal over time. And then last here we have tactical athletes, which is say firemen or police officers or even military. They aren't remarkable in their body composition, but they're not unremarkable either. You can look at say a police officer who's been 20 years in the force, maybe over 50, and they've let themselves go a little bit, but they still look like they're quite capable physically, whether they're male or female, because their bodies have adapted to the rigors of the job of being a tactical athlete. Particularly in fire, who have to carry a lot of breathing apparatus and extra equipment, their bodies have a natural adaptation that come with that. And then obviously with tactical athletes such as soldiers, Marines, they have a certain gravitas about them where you can see just on the way they carry themselves that they are here because they mean business. And when they, take off some layers of clothing, even if they put on a little bit of weight over the years, they've still got hard defined lines based on the rigors of the training that they go through, the set of behaviors that they are exposed to often, and the way that their body, the state of their health, the efficiency at which they change and at which they adapt. So this is why I like to have a three-pronged approach to health and fitness, and why I like to break fitness and body composition out into two separate things. Again, many people come to me for a body composition related goal, but many are looking in the wrong area, and they are susceptible to people selling you something online based on how they look. It'd be really easy for me to take my shirt off after doing a couple of sets of bicep curls and maybe some push-ups, and I'll tell you right now, I blow up. My tissues increase because I get blood into those areas really quick, and I look better than when I would if I hadn't have done that. So now I'm selling you on an image based on 10 minutes of work, which isn't fair on you because now you're susceptible potentially to the way that I look, and you want to look like that too. But I look a certain way because of the set of behaviors or a behavior that I've been developing over several years and the care and attention that I put onto my health. It's not because I woke up and I just magically look like this morning. It's not because I take a whole bunch of fat burning pills. And it's not because I do some ludicrous training program that's guaranteed results in 6 to 8 weeks. There will be changes no matter what you do. But remember how I said last week, just because you're getting better at it doesn't mean it's good for you, doesn't mean it's bad for you. If you're not measuring it, you're not going to know. I used the example of somebody who gets better at smoking cigarettes. Just because you stop coughing doesn't mean that it's good for you. It just means that you got better at the task. You've adapted to that set of behaviors. So that's an output, a measurable output that you've gotten better at. But has it made you healthier? It's definitely going to change your body composition, but has it made you healthier? So we need to be objective with this, and I like to suggest that people take health and put that at the forefront of their mind. If you're not sleeping, you're not going to be recovering. If you're not recovering, we can't progress your performance. And the more that we chase performance, the more opportunities we get to adapt to these behaviors, these sets of behaviors. However, if we're not healthy, we can't adapt, or we can't adapt as efficiently, which gives us a problem, because if our goal is to chase body composition, but we're not able to adapt to the rigors of the behavior, then we get stuck in this negative loop where we're getting unhealthier and unhealthier, and it's taking longer and longer to adapt, which means we now have longer and longer between opportunities to adapt to a new stimulus. And this is why I like to step forward with health first. Another thing to think of as well is if you try to focus on any number of these without considering the other two, then it becomes almost tunnel vision, where you'll do anything you can to achieve a specific outcome here. You may even sacrifice one of the other two. So a great example would be performance enhancing drugs. People chase a specific performance enhancement, or a measurable behavior that's enhanced by something external that may or may not be illicit. When they do that, there's a body composition change as a consequence of that. For example, steroids. So steroids make people recover faster, but there's also an inherent health risk with that as well. But they're doing it because they're chasing specific performance and body composition goals. Further, if somebody does everything they can in order to achieve a body composition goal to the point where they're sacrificing their health because they don't want to eat as much food, then they may achieve a specific result that they didn't want, which is why many women struggle to lose weight by cutting out calories or by simply increasing their amount of exercise. They're sacrificing their health, they're sacrificing 33% of the equation in order to just chase this one element. And that's not effective, it's not efficient. Even further, some people will go to extreme lengths to enhance their health, where we've seen fad diets come into effect. Many people go away on pseudoscience-driven retreats where questionable things get done, and that affects their ability to use their body for sets of behaviors where people aren't getting enough food, and now they can no longer get up and go for a walk because they've put themselves in chronic adrenal fatigue, which is a health problem, and now they can no longer set those behaviors and create output. They can no longer do things for themselves. So it's important to understand that yes, we might have a specific goal. If we aren't factoring in all the variables here, we're missing elements of the equation, and we need all elements of the equation in order to solve the problem. If you're confused by any of this, great, because this took me more than 7 years to learn and get really good at. So if I'm confusing you, I'm really sorry, but this is an example of when you need a coach, someone that can step in and help you find the right space for you to be at that given time. That's going to guarantee you results, whether it's health, performance, or body composition related. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I really want to keep diving into these elements. So if you've got questions about either health, performance, or body composition, please ask either in the comments or send me a personal message. I'm Cam. Thanks for watching Principles Performance, and I'll see you next time. That was sharp. Oh, that was sharp.